Hi, this video is to show you how to answer question 4 on paper 2. So we're looking at comparing how writers convey their perspectives. So in this video, what we'll cover is key parts of the question, identifying perspectives, identifying language features, structuring your comparison, so how to structure your answer, and then just a checklist to check that everything's there. So to start with, let's have a look at an example question. So this question is from, I think it might be June 2017, but I could be wrong. I'll attach the texts to this post. It's the text where you've got Sister Brendan, who is a teacher at a school, and the writer is an inspector visiting to check that the students can read, and the other text is from the Ragged School, and the writer is one of the teachers there. Okay, so what we've been asked to do here is compare how the writers convey their different attitudes to the two schools, right? So let's be fair, this question is asking you to do basically everything. So we're being asked, first of all, to compare. So we're comparing the attitudes, comparing what one writer thinks to what the other writer thinks. But we're not just being asked to compare the attitudes or the perspectives. We're also being asked how they show those perspectives, so how they use language to show what they think. And we've got to be aware of those different attitudes as well. So we've got to read very carefully to work out what the writer thinks. We've then got to compare the writer's attitudes and compare how they write about it. So that sounds like a lot, so I want to try and break it down. The other thing is that in this question, it always says convey, just a posh word for show. Okay, so first of all, we need to identify the perspectives, the thoughts, the ideas, the attitudes of the writers. So how do we know what writers think? So you've got to carefully read the texts. You've got to take your time with reading it. You're not just looking for what the text is about. You're looking for how it's being portrayed, how it's being shown to you. So you got to look out for opinions, positive or negative adjectives. So are they saying that something is, like within a sentence, are they saying something's good or bad? What verbs are they using? So when, for example, when someone's speaking, are they saying that person shouted it or said it in an embarrassed way, or things like that? And overall, what the general tone is the tone one that sort of is showing that this is funny, or showing that it's a positive thing, and so on. It might even be worth, as you're doing these things from home, reading the text aloud to some extent to see how it comes across. Some questions to ask yourself while you're reading it: is the subject being shown in a positive light? Are they saying that this is a good thing? Are they talking about it in a skeptical way? Are they kind of questioning whether this subject is really valid? Or are they poking fun at the topic? So lots of different considerations here. And it takes some deep reading to find those things. But next up, once you've sort of highlighted some quotes in your text, when you've highlighted some quotes showing those perspectives, the next step would be identifying the methods or the language features that the writer is using. So use those meaningful quotes that you've already highlighted. Look at the ones that you can get a lot out of. Think about the writer's use of direct quotes. Are they quoting other people, and how do they seem to react to those quotes? And zoom in on words, verbs, and adjectives in particular. Some more questions: how is the writer making it funny? Or how is the writer creating a negative tone? Or how is the writer showing belief or disbelief? That word "how" is the important part. That is, how are they creating that thing? So what is their method? What is the language feature that they are using? So once you've got your quotes highlighted and some language features labelled, you're going to want to write your answer. And it's tricky to fit all of that stuff in. So I'm kind of showing you a structure here. So step 1 would be the writers of source A and source B have very different perspectives or attitudes or views on, and use the question to finish writing that sentence. Sorry, gone the wrong way. Step 2 will be source A's writer appears to think, and write down what you think they think. And then step 3, as shown by, or this is shown by this quote. Step 4, the writer's use of quotes or verbs or positive adjectives shows that. So you're using the language feature that's been used in the quote. Step 5, in contrast, source B's writer appears to think, and we're starting the process again. So we're going back to step 3. This is shown by this quote. And then the writer's use of quotes, verbs, positive adjectives shows that. So we're comparing the writer's attitude. We're using quotes and language features to back that comparison up. Okay, so that's the process, but I want to show you an example of that in action. So step 1, the writers of source A and source B have very different attitudes about the schools they work in or are visiting. Step 2, source A's writer appears to think that the school is excellent. Step 3, this is shown by this quote, I have never met such lively inquiring minds in one so young. Step 4, the writer's use of positive adjectives shows that the writer is impressed by the students at the school. That he had never met pupils like this before or after suggests he believes it could be one of the best schools he has ever visited. Step 5, in contrast, source B's writer appears to think that the school he works in is atrocious. Back to step 3, this is shown by no school can possibly be worse than this. And then step 4, the writer's use of negative adjectives like worse shows how awful he feels the school is. He clearly uses extreme language to show that he believes his school is the worst around. You can tie that paragraph up by saying this shows how the writer of source A really believes that it's a great place and the writer of source B thinks it's an awful place. That's up to you. You need to do 2 paragraphs like this at least because it's worth 16 marks. So you're quite like deeply looking at the language and the perspectives. Okay, so next you want to check you've included everything. So have you compared the perspectives and the attitudes? Have you used quotes to back up what you think? Have you identified the language used by both writers? And have you written at least 2 paragraphs, including quotes from both texts? So the thing that people forget the most is the language, is checking that that they've included language features or methods by the writer. So really make sure that you've got those in. Come back to this video and have this, pause it on here so you can see if you've included all those things, okay? So I'm hoping that helps with question 4 on paper 2. We've looked at the key parts of the question, how to identify perspectives in a text, how to identify the relevant language features, how to structure your answer, and a checklist to make sure elements are all there.